there were a bunch of you gone today in AP Stats, so I want to quickly just summarize the notes. Please copy these down into your notes. Margin of error, what I did, let me get my when I'm gone, I'm not going to erase what I wrote down, but we talked about the experiment that we did in class. Not all of you got to it, so I did ask my colleagues to help me out. And we showed this graph, and you can see the dot plot here. Highlighted. Still kind of playing around with this. You can see the dot plot, each one of these circles. Okay. I'm sorry, each one of these X's stand for one person's 20 pulls of those circles and what percentage of purple circles they got. We talked about what was the purpose of that sample. So you took 20 dots. The purpose of that sample then was to give us information about the population. And our question of interest was what percentage of dots are purple. That leads us to inference. Then we looked at this right here and we said, what percentage do we think are actually purple in the whole bin of the population? I had people fill this sentence out. I think the population percentage of purple dots is blank. Now, I talked about why do we use a random sample. Well, random samples eliminate bias. The sample, it helps eliminate bias. The sample is now representative of the population. Then I asked the question, was the result the same as the truth? And we went and I told what the truth was. The truth was this purple line here. And many people in class said it was about 30% to about 35%, somewhere in there. So they were close, but not exactly. Then I talked about what it means to have a random or margin of error. So a margin of error is building bounds where it says my sample might not be the truth. Okay? 48% of people might not be voting for Hillary Clinton. But if I have a margin of error, I can say within 3 percentage points that they think I'm pretty accurate. I compare this to our actual sample. Someone got 50% purple dots here. That's way off of 33%. Our margin of error was 22%. I build that black line here, you can see that 33% is in that margin of error. So I had it, even though my margin of error is big, it did do its job. Let me know if there's more questions about that. I then talked about predict what the graph would look like if we used a sample size of 40 rather than 20. That margin of error is going to get smaller if we do that. This graph here is going to shrink. The variation will not be as large. Okay, the variation between all these dots will not be as large. If you think about it, if I say 38% of people are voting for Hillary Clinton with a margin of error of 3%, what that means, and I'll type it no. So 38% of people, that's not all people, that's my sample, okay? But I can't say 38% of people I sample are going to vote for Hillary. I want to make generalizations about the population. That's the reason for the sample. So I get my sample is 38% plus or minus 3%. So now I've made a generalization. I think 38% of people are going to vote for Hillary. The margin of plus or minus 3%. That means my bounds are 35% to 41%. I think the population is going to be somewhere in here. The population is going to be somewhere in here. That's what that margin of error is doing. Let me know if you have more questions about that. And finally, I just talked about in your notes by replication. So that was one of the experimental designs. We didn't write a lot about it. Replication is important for controlling variation. As the sample size increases, we should observe less variation. So again, if I go back to this let's say I say 38% of people of my sample are going to vote for Hillary with the margin of error of plus or minus 10%. What we can draw is a conclusion. If I call this right here, sorry, I'm scribbling, sample 1, and I call this sample 2. Okay, sample 1 has less variation. And since it has less variation, what we can say is sample 1 sample 1 had a larger sample size because there's less variation. If I would write my bounds for this sample 2, and I said 38 plus 10 and 38 minus 10, that's going to give me 28% to 38%. I'm sorry, to 48%. Now I'm saying, hey, here's what I got for my sample. Okay, 38%. I'm going to say, I think of the population, 38% of the population are going to vote for Hillary within a margin of error of 10%. That's saying that's between the circle. The truth really could be anywhere in here, from 28 to 48% of what actually happens. There's much more variation in sample 2 because we didn't sample as many people. Sample 1, we sampled more people, and as a result, we have less variation, and that's the purpose of replication, increasing your sample size. Think of it this way, another way too. If we flip a coin 10 times, it's plausible to get 8 of those times, right? Tails out of 10. But if we flip it 100 times and 80 of those times we flip tails, we would speculate the coin was weighted because we're not going to get as much variation. We should have gotten around anywhere between 48 or even 40 to 60%. Okay? If we flip it 100 times, we should have, based off of the margin of error, we should have gotten somewhere between 40 and 60%. If we got 80% now, because our variation is small, we could say something's up. Again, let me know if there's more questions on this. I'm just briefly skimming through this. Here was our checklist for today. We made a file folder. You'll have to do that when you get to class. I passed back the partner problem, and look at the email lines and reflect where you went wrong. I talked about the homework that I sent yesterday, which should be 6. That's due Monday. The 4.1 exit card clarification. This is due Tuesday. It's only a 5-minute video, and we get 2 questions after this. I made this because I saw so many errors in that exit card that you were seeing, so I want to make sure that you understand where you went wrong. And then the 4.1 and 4.2 exit card is due Sunday, and I made an update on that. And then we did have a new assignment based off of yesterday's notes. Page 257, 77 through 77, 80, and 85, due Tuesday. The test is on Tuesday. Please, like I said in the update, make the 4.1 and 4.2 exit card your priority. Get that down. That will determine how much of a workday we get. If people are really confused, I'll clarify. If people are getting it, we'll have a workday. Thanks, and have a great weekend.